Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We are so excited to have everybody here for this first of our kind Celebrating Engineers webinar. I'm so excited. This has been still like over a year in planning. I kind of off the cuff was joking about it with one of my guests from today, actually about a year ago. And it's all come together now. So I'm very excited. We're just going to give everybody a chance to jump in here. If everybody wants to say where they're from, and I've got a couple of polls that will ask a little bit more, but let's make sure the chat's working. Tell us where you're from today. There it is. Lacey, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, Mississippi, Virginia, Farmington, Connecticut. I was very close to there. Coeur d'Alene, gorgeous. Saratoga Springs. I was just in Saratoga Springs. Haima, you're back. Hello. Louisville, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Moscow, Idaho. Lots of Idaho today. Boston, Northville. Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to our Celebrating Engineers e-week webinar. Thank you all so much for being here. This is our last webinar before e-week, which is less than 3 weeks away now. And this is one that's very near and dear to my heart because this is the role that I work in here at DiscoverE. So thank you all for being with us. Just so that everybody knows, this webinar is being recorded. We will post a link on DiscoverE. We have it on our YouTube, and we will email you a link to this also. So if you're here and you have to step away or you can't take down notes fast enough from our brilliant guests, that's okay. We got you covered. If you have questions, I will be monitoring the chat, but if you want to put them in the Q&A, I will definitely see them there. So know that that exists. My name is Sarah Moore. I am the marketing manager here at DiscoverE. I was a middle school teacher. Well, I was technically a high school teacher when DiscoverE found me, but I was a middle school teacher for most of my career. And I'm so proud to be here and to be able to support educational engineering programs and initiatives like Engineers Week and Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day and Future City and World Engineering Day and International Women in Engineering Day and Chats with Changemakers. And there's so many more. I would love to talk with you about all of them, but we're going to focus on Engineers Week and Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day today. So my first question that I have I'm just curious, how many of you are actually in a communications or marketing role in your position? Um, I'm it's interesting to me to know who is coming to this and if this is finding people who I thought would be interested, or if it's finding people who are interested in other ways. So, yeah, about 13 of you say yes, that you are. And right now, about 18% of you say no, that you're not in a communications or marketing role, which I think is even more exciting. I hope that we have some really practical tips for you here. Thank you all for being here. In case you are new to Discover Engineering, maybe you saw this on social media when I posted it to the socials. We are the engineers, or the E in STEM, and that's what we do here at Discover Engineering. We support educators and volunteers to build skills and confidence, to increase student interest and knowledge in engineering, and to expand the opportunities that students have for engineering careers. I have two marvelous panelists with me today. Reina is the Assistant Director of Student Recruitment and Outreach at the Frank H. White College of Engineering, Texas A&M University, Kingsville. And Reina was a guest with us, for those of you who were with us last January for the Creating Your Future webinar kickoff. He was one of our guests last year, and I've invited him back because we were talking about how good it would be to talk about this specifically. So thankfully, he made some time for us. And then Denise Parra is the public affairs officer from El Paso Water in El Paso, Texas. We have two Texas guests today. And I found Denise because you guys, they are killing it on socials. Okay. They are doing we're going to hear more than just socials because I didn't realize the other stuff that they were killing it in. But the socials was how I found them because Engineers Week is not just one week, it happens all year. And they're doing an incredible job at celebrating engineers. So I'm so grateful to have both of my guests. Would you come and join me now? And we'll get started. And because this is a more of a round table, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to, oh, I was supposed to take a poll first. As you guys are coming in, they knew that. That's why they were hesitating because they knew I didn't go far enough in my slides. But I just have one more poll. Can I just ask, are you, who are you? Are you an engineer or a STEM professional? Do you work at a college, university? Are you maybe a college student, a teacher, an after school leader, librarian, museum staff, or other? And while everybody is taking that, I just want to say, Reina and Denise, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me and asking me to be a part of this panel. First time, but very excited. I'm about 4.5 years with El Paso Water, but Engineers Week and DiscoverE is always a great time to really amplify what our engineering department is doing. So thank you for having me.
Thank you as well for having me. I'm very excited to be here again.
I'm so excited to kind of nerd out with you, and I'm seeing comments in the chat around the different roles that people have: nonprofit marketing and communications people, marketing coordinator, STEM professional, marketing assistant, community engagement coordinator. So there's a lot of people. I think something that really should never fail to surprise me is how many people it actually takes to get out marketing and communications across every role. Like it's everybody's job. And I'm sure that you both have seen that. My first question for you two is, how do you celebrate engineers in your communications through your jobs?
All right, Reina, you go first, Reina?
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, one of the things that we do is we do make sure that we include little keywords that most people might know, even if you're not an engineer, even if you're only 6 or 7 years old or 60 or 70 years old. You know that there are certain words like building the future or certain phrases, building the future. Just little, I call it little golden nuggets of engineering. Throwing some light on engineering in some way. I think it's a fun way, a pretty simple way to make sure that people know that we are an engineering organization or community, and that we're very friendly and welcome to all, and that we want to promote engineering to all as well, right? So I think that's a really simple answer. We just use little keywords that we know that people know, pretty universally known, well known, and that's what we go with.
Brilliant.
And at El Paso Water, we also want to do it externally at the same time internally, because we have, about 1,100 employees. So not everyone knows what the engineering department does, believe it or not. And so we want to include all the departments, but we also want to include our community. So the way we celebrate them, of course, is through all the platforms that we have on social media. We have internal stories, external stories, recognitions. In El Paso itself, Engineers Week is a big deal. There are so many events happening throughout the city. And so I feel like El Paso Water is a small part compared to everything that's going on throughout the city. So we also have our signature event, which we also have called a DiscoverE after the organization. So that is a way that we bring in and we celebrate our engineers, and we get a lot of our consulting firms and engineering firms that we work with to just help kids discover what engineering means. And it's in our lives every single day, so we want to simplify that too and really let people know everything that you do, there was probably an engineer behind that. And I'm no engineer, and I've been learning that through my time here. And it's just, it's embedded in our everyday lives. So that's how we want to make it more conversational and easy to understand for the community.
I think something that I heard both of you say is like those keywords, those nuggets that multiple people, that anybody in any audience can look at and go, oh, okay, I at least have some frame of reference, right? The goal of communications, as we know, is like to get a point across. And so I really appreciate that both of you do that. I think the other thing, Reina, thinking back to a year ago when we were talking about it, you were talking about how there is work to be done, obviously, to external audiences, to the college, people who potential new recruits to the college, but also within the college, like letting the other departments and recognizing the staff that sit on faculty there. And so I think that that's, and I heard Denise say that also, like those internal as well as the external comms are really important. So I'm excited to hear more about how those work. Um, one thing,
Can I,
obviously,
sorry.
please, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. Actually, as I was listening to Denise, there was a keyword that I love that you used. It was simplify. That is a big thing, right? Not everybody knows what engineering is or even what the different engineering disciplines mean, right? And so I think that the biggest thing for me, I'm also not necessarily an engineer. Excuse me, I'm not an engineer, but I have been learning it. I've been around it for so long that I've been able to take these more technical, complex concepts and simplify them in a way that I aim for what a freshman in high school would understand, right? Because I do feel like that kind of language allows people that are a little bit younger in middle school, they understand that, a little bit older, beyond high school, they understand that kind of terminology, right? Or that kind of form of communication. Um, I feel like those things really do work well with what I do and what me and my team do. And another thing I did want to mention too, back to you, Sarah, was the internal and external communications. I am a firm believer that you got to get your own people excited about what's going on. The more excited that your own people are, the better chance we have at getting other people from beyond just the college, the university, or even other universities excited, external audiences, getting them excited. But it all starts with getting you and your team excited. If you're excited about promoting and pushing whatever it is that you're doing, there's a very good chance that you're going to reach others in a more genuine way.
Can I
Thank you.
add to that as well?
Yeah,
You
please, would you?
mentioned, yeah, it's getting that buy-in, right, from your internal departments, because as you mentioned, it takes a whole collaboration. It's a collaborative effort with the various departments. And if you don't have that buy-in from the engineers themselves and from the engineering department and the supervisors and the managers, it makes it a little more challenging to get your message out. And that's what, we are constantly working towards, but we have that buy-in here at El Paso Water. And when Engineers Week comes around, we have our chief engineering officer who's already excited to help put together some of these, or who leads, in putting together some of the internal events. And we have at our Tech H2O Learning Center where they host the big DiscoverE event that we have. So just getting that internal buy-in, we have our engineers who are volunteering at this event. So I think that's the most important. That's where you start. That's the foundation, making sure that everyone is on the same side and the messaging is the same to then help promote it throughout the community. So I think that buy-in is very important. And whether you're a social media communications specialist, marketing manager, or any comms, and even if you're a teacher and you're kind of in charge of this type of event, I think that's making it conversational and easy to understand is also part of that buy-in. As communicators, that is our job, right? To take these very high level terms that sometimes sound like French or a foreign language, and bringing them down to a level that, like Reina said, an elementary school aged kid can understand and can appreciate and can learn from.
I love that you both said that. And I think also just as a teacher, how much of my job was getting buy-in from students. Like if my students did not want to do whatever activity I had planned, oh man, that's like pulling, it's like herding cats or pulling teeth, right? So getting buy-in in moving from like a classroom into like a corporate position, I think like that was just built into kind of the structure of like teachers as a DNA. So I know about 11% of our audience is DNA, or is teachers. And so, that's probably for so many. And I can see already that there are people putting in chat their experiences and tips. We encourage you to do that. This is meant to be a conversation, and we're also excited to hear from you guys what's working. All of us, I think something we talked about was some of us might be like a department of one, but it takes a community to do this well. So my next question kind of feeds off of that first question, which one of the goals of Engineers Week is to celebrate engineers specifically. But the other goal of Engineers Week is to encourage future generations to consider engineering and have awareness and appreciation of engineering, so that once they become like voting citizens, they have an awareness of that. So I guess my next question for you is, how are you engaging potential future engineers or kids who might not become engineers but need an appreciation of engineering in your communications role?
So mine is very brief. We have not yet gone into the actual classrooms. We do have our Tech H2O Center, that is our educational outreach, and they do a lot of the presentations within the elementary schools. We have tours at our learning center. So that gives them a glimpse, right? And we have tours almost every day. With DiscoverE, more focused on DiscoverE, we rely on our signature event. Last year we had just a little, about 500 people. So, I mean, that is just some of the best exposure that we can get. So when we're focusing just solely on Engineers Week and DiscoverE, we rely heavily on our DiscoverE event. And, you can look up on our YouTube page, we have just a promo video and kind of a recap of just the amount of people that are there. And we have engineering challenges. So we recruit schools to sign up for these engineering challenges. So that is where, we focus on exposing kids to that. And that event really does take a group effort. On my background, I have my El Paso Water logo and Tech H2O Center, which is, we really rely on them for that outreach of what El Paso Water does. And they do such a great job at engaging kids. Even if you just stop in the Tech H2O Learning Center, it's free to go in. It's open Monday through Friday. You can do a self tour, but you'll have a staff member there. So we are in the classrooms. We have the kids come to us. So there are different ways that our Tech H2O team is always trying to identify to not only focus on Tech H2O is more focused on conservation, but you have to talk about those engineering elements when you're talking about what we do and water distribution and wastewater and stormwater in our case as well, because we oversee all three utilities. So we're constantly trying to find ways to keep them engaged. But I have to say that DiscoverE is that big event that we look forward to every year, where we get hundreds of kids.
Love that. Thank you.
Yes, that was really great. And I want to make sure that I got this question right? The question is, how do we celebrate engineers, and also how do we attract future engineers, right?
Yeah, what are you doing to engage future engineers? And I know obviously as a college, you have a very specific idea of what you're looking for.
Yes. So I think I want to start off with this. This is a campaign that I've been wanting to launch on social media. Basically, Denise, you mentioned it. Engineering is everywhere around us, right? But I think a lot of times people just slip right past that because there are so many things that we just kind of automatically take for granted. Not that we mean to, it's just we expect the lights to turn on when we flip the switch. We expect the waters to run in our homes and buildings and facilities, etc. We just expect these things to work, but that was in fact engineered by someone or teams of people, modified and improved by teams of people, right? I want to launch a campaign on social to show how engineering is in fact all around us, everywhere from the lights to the cars, to the tables, to the actual building that we're in, to tennis balls and basketballs that are also engineered materials, right? All these things. I want to launch that on social because I feel like that makes it interesting and fun, enlightening as well, right? And I want to start doing little polls on like the Instagram stories to show, do you think this, like, that's just something fun and silly, like, do you think that this was engineered, or how was this engineered, or what disciplines do you think were contributing to this kind of whatever it is that let's say a building, what is a primary what were the primary engineering disciplines that were applied to bring this structure to be, right? That's number one, but then that's the way of attracting. But the way that we celebrate the engineers that we have currently and people who are current and past is just recognizing the great work that they did or great work that they do. One of the things that we are doing with this E-Week coming up is on Wednesday, we're going to have Explore Engineering Day. And that's going to be our opportunity to show what our departments do, the engineers that have been successful, who have found success from those specific disciplines and those departments, but also what our future engineers, our prospective students can explore, what they can look forward to if they do pursue one of these disciplines in one of our engineering departments. We basically just want to make sure that we keep the flow of information going, and we want to link things that maybe people normally wouldn't link to engineering. And I think that's how we celebrate engineers and also how we try to attract future engineers.
Do you mind if I add one more thing, Sarah? I
Please.
think what I forgot to mention was, and this is a huge opportunity, is career days. We get so many requests for career days. And because we have that buy-in from both, you know, HR and the engineering department, we have engineers that are constantly, not just, you know, at the end of the school year, but throughout the year, you know, making presentations at schools, speaking to students of all ages. And so that's one opportunity that I know sometimes there are not enough resources, right, to send your staff out to these types of events. But I think if you can create a core group, you know, it doesn't have to be a communications professional, but even our engineers, I mean, our engineers, you know, they've learned how to, and they're improving on how to make these presentations relatable to kids, especially because you get all sorts of questions from kids. But you know, that's the great thing. I think that's one way to. And if you're not getting those career day requests, you know, reaching out to schools saying that you are available. Sometimes, you know, schools may tend to shy away or don't know that you have a subject matter expert who would love to talk to kids. So I think that's one opportunity as well that you know, departments or individuals can take advantage of in their communities, especially not only during Engineers Week, but throughout the year to keep that conversation going.
Yes. Yes, I love that you've said that. And I'm going to drop a link in chat to Messages Matter, which is a report, a research, a year-long research study, which is an update to a previous study that we released a year ago during Engineers Week. And we spent quite a lot of time talking to parents and students around their perceptions around engineering and the way in which messaging works. And we got it broken down into very specific groups across socioethnic backgrounds and across gender backgrounds. So if you have a very specific group that you're working with, Messages Matter will have very specific messaging that you can use. But also, I wanted to point out on that page to anybody who, like Reina and Denise and I, are in a communications role, and you might be sending an engineer or sending somebody out to a career day. We have really beautifully designed pieces, PDFs on there around talking points, how to give a presentation, how to go into a classroom visit, how to do hands-on activities. And so I want to just plug that for a moment in case anybody is looking, if you've got engineers and they're like, I don't really know, kids are so scary. They certainly are sometimes, but they're not really. They want to be excited. And I want to go back also. So go check out the Messages Matter page. I want to say that. And then Reina, I also want to go back and draw a loop from what you said around, first off, engineering is everywhere around us. I already know what the Engineers Week 2026 theme is, but I'm going to put that as a potential theme for Engineers Week 2027 because I love it so much. I think it's such a brilliant way to make it concrete for people. And another organization, again, because we're talking communications, an organization that is doing that specific messaging really well is Engineers UK. They have a website called This Is Engineering, I think .co.uk, but I'm sure we can find the link here in a couple of minutes. They went out and they found engineers who are doing just cool things. And they focus on the cool thing, and then they focus on the biography of the engineer and how they got into that path. And it's such a good way because, as you said, like with the Instagram polls or whatever, when kids, what adults might think of as silly and little and inconsequential might be the whole world to a student, right? To a young person who just doesn't have a whole lot of other life context. And when they get to see that, that's when their excitement can come up. So I really love that you might be launching that campaign. Count me in. You'll see us put a bunch of stuff out if you do it, um, for sure. Can I ask, because you mentioned Instagram polls, so let me carry on there. What platforms do you find that are working for you, whether that is email platforms or social media platforms, or is there certain publications or physical buildings? Something that I did this week in my job is I designed an escalator wrap that's going to go down the side of an escalator for Engineers Week, which was super exciting in a big hotel in Washington, D.C. So I'm curious, what platforms and what ways are you sharing information?
Yes, if I may, thank you. Thank you for asking that. So I found that the most popular platform that I use is Instagram. But I do want to mention this. So I do use Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We also have an X account. I'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. But I have found that there's different audiences on the three platforms that I use primarily, which is Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Everything that I do, however, I'm so sorry. Everything that I do, however, it is all based on Instagram, and whatever I do on Instagram, I do translate that over to Facebook and LinkedIn. There is one challenge with Instagram, and that's the links. Whenever you make a post, you can't include a link that people can click on when the caption, although you can do that in the story. With that said, for the most part, that I haven't really considered that to be a big deal because people do look at the story. It's a different way of getting them to click on links, but there is that option. Facebook and LinkedIn, very different audiences, and on all three platforms. But with those, there are the links, and I feel like those are the ones that I focus a little bit more with, including links that people can then redirect and kind of get more information on whatever it is that we're sharing. X, on the other hand, X has been a challenge. It's just kind of, I'm not sure. I've never really been into Twitter, so I don't know if it's still the same situation, but it seems very slow, and it doesn't really get a lot of engagement. We might get one or two likes or interactions from a bot, and that's about it. X unfortunately has not been as fruitful for us, but the other three platforms have been really great. One thing that we are looking into doing is launching an engineering communications newsletter. That's still, we got to go through some obstacles, if you will, because newsletters are looked at in a certain way with the university marketing and communications team. So I got to run things by them. But that is going to be another platform that we explore. And the target audience on that would be teachers, superintendents, principals, people that we would want to build our relationship with to not only recruit their students, but also make sure our community of people know what's going on. One of the big things that I've learned with communications is a lot of times when you're reaching out to these to other businesses or organizations, we almost feel like we're reaching out to a business instead of realizing we're reaching out to just another human, another person. And so I do want to modify our communications and make sure that it is a lot more humanized, humanized. So that way there is that personal feel when people do read whatever it is that we're sending, even if it is a mass communication, that it feels a little bit more personalized to the individual. So those are the platforms that we use, and another platform that we hope to get into.
And so we use some of the similar platforms as well, social media wise, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. X as well, we don't see a whole lot of engagement from there, so we use it more. We will post, but we use it more for notifications in case there's some sort of water, wastewater, stormwater emergency, things like that. But as Reina said, it's more. It doesn't get that engagement. We will get the follows and the comments from bots as well. So, but we still have a presence on there. Instagram, I think, has been the one that gets us the most engagement. Facebook as well. There's a certain age demographic now on Facebook, but it's a lot of our ratepayers, it's a lot of our customers, and when they see these promos for our events like DiscoverE, they're going to bring their kids. So that has really helped us target that audience. Instagram as well. We like to do a lot of collaborations with other organizations, especially when we're promoting our DiscoverE event. We're tagging all the engineering companies that are going to be there so then they can share it. We do have newsletters as well that we send out to the community, and that's where we have the opportunity to promote our events that are happening during Engineers Week. And when I say events, I mean our big event is DiscoverE. That is what, kind of concludes the end of Engineers Week, is this big event that we have on a Saturday. And we'll reach out to our local media, send out news releases to inform them. I'll do a circuit of live interviews with the media. We try to engage them as much as we can. And I feel like a lot of our organizations here in El Paso do the same. So you'll see quite a bit of media coverage, not only with El Paso Water, but with other organizations. The city has a proclamation for Engineers Week, and they invite engineers. So it's becoming a thing. And that's what I love to see now that I'm working on, for the utility, and I've been here for a few years, just seeing how people do recognize it, and you say Engineers Week. So those are some of the platforms that help us as well. We also do have, this is always an opportunity to start a relationship with the media station or a media publication. Families always want something to do, always want a way to engage their kids. And if you're teaching them through engineering, sometimes they don't even realize that they're learning engineering. So that is how we capitalize on DiscoverE and our event. But yeah, I think social media right now is our best bet, and it really gives us those great results when we're promoting our engineers, and people like to see people, and we've seen that as well through the engagements on social media. And anytime we post about an engineer who's maybe been working here for 30+ years, and he's, he or she are talking about, one of the first projects that they ever worked on, and maybe it's an area that, people are familiar with, that starts to get the engagement. And I think we see that when we interview our own personnel and our own engineers with their own stories and making it a little bit personal, we get those engagements. And sometimes it's their family members that start it all, where, hey, that's my uncle, that's my dad, and we're so proud of you. So that's usually what gets the engagements going. And for us, social media right now is the winning platform to promote our e-week and our engineers, throughout the year.
I think it's really interesting, Reina. I'll come back to you in just a second. I think it's really interesting to hear you both talk about that, because obviously we do quite a lot on social media, and Meta is, Instagram and Facebook is really big deal for us. I was on Twitter. I think one of my Twitter accounts is like 12 years old, like it should be going through puberty or something. I've been on Twitter for a really long time, or X. And I agree, like actually, it's funny because X is where I found Denise. And it was through a year ago, Twitter, where I started seeing those first posts. So I think that like so many of you and so many of our other colleagues know, it's kind of moving away from that, but Instagram is really filling the slot. I know that neither of you two use TikTok, but we've started experimenting with TikTok, and for as long as that lasts, I don't know, we'll see where that goes. But of course, anything that you're filming in that content, you can slip over to a reel or a YouTube short. We use YouTube quite a lot, both through chats and change makers and our challenge videos. And email for us is, I don't know if either of you, for email is a really big deal, but email for us is still one of the number one ways that we see even signups for this webinar. Like the majority of them came from email links. So yeah, it's so curious to see the different audiences and how they're responding. And like you said, like both of you have said, Facebook has a very specific audience. LinkedIn has a very specific audience. I'm curious, just from a nerd perspective, are you posting to those directly, or do you use a piece of software that allows you to post to multiple things and manage multiple accounts?
Oh, go ahead, Reina. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'm not using it currently, but there was a program that I used to use to post to multiple accounts. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like advertise for
Oh,
them, but
you don't
I'm gonna
have
go.
to.
Okay,
I was
cool.
just
Yeah.
curious if you're
Okay.
posting directly or if you use a piece of software.
I'm gonna do it because it might help somebody else. So, Hey Orca was the program that I used, and Hey Orca was basically like a social media manager. I posted on at the time Twitter, LinkedIn, um, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm not sure if other social media platforms were allowed on there. For us in higher education, state institution, we can't use TikTok. I think as of 2 years ago, that was like the official thing. And I was the one proposing we need to get on TikTok, and then we just couldn't do that. But anyways, Hey Orca was the program that I use. Now what I use is X and LinkedIn. I do them individually. But Facebook and Instagram, Meta Business Suites, I think that's what it's
Yeah, the
called.
business suite.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's been really great. It helps out a lot, even though it's just those two programs specifically, it does help out tremendously. I
yeah.
have a lot more to unpack, but I'll let Denise go and then I'll
So we do use Sprout Social here at El Paso Water, where that lets you schedule multiple platforms. And now they've added LinkedIn, so that helps. But we know that not every platform, right? We can have to cater our post to every platform. We're not going to necessarily post a reel, say a slightly humorous reel on LinkedIn. So we do kind of take that in, we do take that into consideration when discussing our social media content. For LinkedIn, if we're talking about DiscoverE, we are gonna maybe post something that is appreciation of some of the engineering companies that we work with, because we know they're all on LinkedIn. And we will tag them so to get that attention. And Sarah, you mentioned, you found me on X, and that's because I was constantly tagging DiscoverE. So if you want to get someone's attention, or just to let them know, this social media post, we want to bring you in and collaborate. Now, the great
Yeah,
thing about Instagram is you do have that option to collaborate, and it'll invite,
yeah.
another entity or person to collaborate with you. But tagging has done, a lot of good for us, because we've been able to
Mhm.
create this partnerships and collaborations with other organizations, and then it'll continue off of social media. So yeah, we do, we do use Sprout Social. To answer your question before I I venture off into another direction, we do use Sprout Social, which is very helpful, but Meta Business Suite, we know that is also you got have the options to post or to schedule those posts that you want. But we also take into consideration the tailoring every post to the specific platform.
Yeah.
All right, I got a lot to unpack, but really quick, I do want to answer a question that just came into the chat. It looks like from Barnett, Taya Barnett. Any ideas for visuals or graphics? I do want to mention this really quick. When it comes to creativity and communication, it is okay to get inspiration from other companies and organizations. Number one, I do want to say that is totally okay. There is nothing wrong with that. It's not competing. It is just inspiring creativity. So I do hope that answers the question. But in addition to that, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. Also, there is Canva, which has a bunch of templates that I mean, just go to town on Canva. Truly go to town. I suppose you can use Photoshop, but you gotta do a lot of those things on your own, right? I think Canva will probably be the best tool. Going back to a lot of the things that we talked about right now, Sarah and Denise. So, number one, X, the fact that you found Denise on X, right? I think that's incredible. And that has been a reason why I have not gotten away from X, is because I do believe that there's still potential. It's just it's so far and in between when there are those little, times where you hit a home run to where you just don't see anything for a year. And it does just take a little bit of extra time to modify whatever the post that you're gonna do to X. The only way of kind of fixing that is if we made every single post on every platform to be based off of X instead of Instagram, whatever else. Anyway, so I did want to mention that that's one of the big reasons why we haven't got rid of X. And another thing you had mentioned, Sarah, was that you're on YouTube. So in higher education, we do have certain, I don't want to say restrictions, but I guess there's just certain things that we got to navigate whenever we're trying to grade on different platforms. But with that said, I'm someone who will make waves if I need to. There was a department, I'm not going to mention who it was exactly, but they wanted to get on social media. But the challenge for them was they wanted to get on there because they knew they had to get on there. But on the marketing communication side is We need to know who's going to be the social media manager for your department, and also that you will be active. And that's the big thing, is being active on these platforms. It's not just saying I have a Facebook page for the sake of having a Facebook page, because that could actually cause damage if you're not active on your platform. It can actually hurt you if you're not being active, if you're not sharing information on a regular basis. Consistency, right? So I do think that that's another thing. And part of the reason why, although I do want the College of Engineering to be on YouTube, part of the reason why I also don't want to get on there is because I believe then I would also be that person who is not being active. And video, I enjoy video. I do love video. I love watching videos. But when it comes to making videos, it's a lot of extra work. And when you're already working 70 hours a week and now you also got to do that, it becomes it becomes a bit challenging, right? Too much, biting off too much. That's pretty much what it is. And then the very last thing that I wanted to share, email marketing. I did see, or I hear about it all the time, that people believe that email marketing is like dead or dying out. However, we check so many people check emails on such a regular basis. Maybe
Yeah.
not the 12-year-old, maybe not the 15-year-old, maybe not the 18 or 21-year-old, but there are working professionals, there are parents, guardians, people who are constantly checking their email. In fact, I've gone from checking Facebook first in the morning to checking email first in the morning in like the last couple of years. And I'm very, very responsive and active with getting on email. But that is something that I did see, that email marketing is like becoming a hidden gem, even though
Mm.
I think it should also be obvious that email marketing is one of the best ways to go with trying to get information out there and trying to get a return on that communication. So I did want to share that. I know I just spoke a whole lot, so sorry if I took too much time, but I did
No,
want to
that's
share that.
good.
I'm just gonna add on some of the
Please.
platforms that we use as well. Canva has, oh my goodness, once you
Yeah.
discover Canva, and I'm still learning it, it opens you up. We do have I do have someone on my staff who helps us with social media content. Before it used to be myself, but now that we've been able to add that other person, it's been great, because now, I mean, now she's discovering Canva, discovering what you can and can't do with it.
Mhm.
Adobe Rush is something I would use before
Mm.
Canva. Adobe Rush is an editing software, and it's in the Adobe suite, but it's very user friendly. Adobe Premiere can be a little daunting and overwhelming because there's so many things, so many options, so many effects, but Adobe Rush is very user friendly. It has some already like pre-made formats that you can drop into your timeline, things like that. Has some really neat colors. You can change the colors, but it is very user friendly. And now that we still use Adobe Rush, but when we're trying to edit, some longer videos, longer format videos, we do use DaVinci Resolve. And that one
Mhm.
is new to us. We just started using it last year, because we had to stop using CapCut. So CapCut, which was also a great program, because it was linked to TikTok. It's the same company. And just for context, for those, I see that I don't know if there's anyone else from Texas, but for El Paso Water, as a governmental entity, we can't use TikTok. That's just, state law. So we had to also not, step away from CapCut after we learned that it was linked to TikTok. But while we had it, it was great. So if you can use it, that's also a very user-friendly platform.
Yeah, and I actually don't think CapCut is back in the US App Store,
Right.
is what my understanding is. But if you're like me and you live north of the border, we still have it, so it is on my phone. I love this wasn't something that we had talked about in like the pre getting ready that we were going to talk about platforms, but I love this and I love the chat. Canva, everything you see that is eWeek or DiscoverE branded is designed in Canva. I don't use the Adobe suite. I wasn't trained in the Adobe suite. So everything we do, all of the Zoom backgrounds, all of the graphics, all of the posters, our t-shirts, the mugs, the stickers on water bottles, like everything we do. We do have a graphic design and a marketing advertising firm that builds us these amazing, I call them Lego pieces. And so I get all of these on like separate things, and then I can assemble them as different kind of Lego pieces into whatever we're looking for. And that's been really helpful for me. But my dad's a graphic designer, so I do have a little bit of that. And then I do video editing also. So the video editing, as you both have said, like, is a lot. I use Camtasia on my computer if anybody's looking for that, particularly teachers. And the one thing definitely that I want to say is Canva is free if you are a nonprofit, and I think it's free for educational institutions as well. But Sprout Social has a nonprofit discount. We used to use Hootsuite. We use Sprout Social now, but we used to use Hootsuite. There are so many. Adobe also does nonprofit discounts. So if you are a nonprofit or an educational institution, make sure that you mention that and see what kind of discount you can get. Um, and we've talked a little bit about like some good strategies that work. I love that we're doing that. Something I think that I've heard you both kind of allude to, but I just want to like tease out a little bit more is um, you both work within kind of a larger organization in which there is more comms people maybe in different departments or in different like pieces of the organization. What is for somebody who might be here who also is in a similar role, what are the planning and approval timelines that you guys go through? What things are you thinking about? Like if you're starting to plan for Engineers Week, how early? I know both of you have like ongoing existing things, so they're just like in the works, but how early do you think somebody should, and if you were starting today 3 weeks out, what might you be able to accomplish if you could do one or two things?
I think we start the conversation in late December. Sometimes it can be a slower time for us, but not always. I'm also, the media relations person. So if something happens, you never know when you're going to get pulled away. And so I think we start having that discussion in December, just, hey, DiscoverE is around the corner, Engineers Week is around the corner. But I think at the start, midway, what's today, January 29th, I would say maybe for us, because it works out well that way, is we start about mid-January. And I didn't mention this before, but for Engineers Week, we do reach out to our engineering department and our chiefs, and they will nominate 5 engineers or engineering associates, and they nominate them. We pick 5. And then every day of Engineers Week, we highlight one of them. So that's kind of how that's like the foundation of our e-week recognition is. And so we start, taking in nominations, and we start, making the list shorter, and then finally when we get down to our 5. So that happens, about mid-January. And actually right now our social media, our content creator, she's actually interviewing the engineers right now who actually, will be spotlighted for Engineers Week. So, and this is to us, I think, a little bit earlier now that we have a social media, a content creator who's really helping us and made such a difference within our department. See, I can be here at this webinar while she's interviewing the engineers. But if you're 3 weeks out, I wouldn't, don't take on too much. If all you can do, I mean, there's been years where all we do is take a picture of, engineers or engineering department. We'll take some of the content that DiscoverE offers. I mean, they have the backgrounds, they have the graphics, and, we always try to use the same, if it's not the same background, we also try to use the same colors that you guys use, on your graphics. So if all it is a photo with a really nice background that that looks like, or that is the DiscoverE, I mean, you can download. I know you guys have a lot of downloadables, so we really have used those, especially when I was one person doing social media and everything else communications. That really came in handy, and that really helps. But even now, we still try to have that same branding as DiscoverE because we want to be a part of that. But man, if all you can do is put a photo in front of, a background, or maybe just get some quick Q&As with your engineers in the department. All you need is a phone nowadays, right? You don't need a camera, you don't need fancy editing, so even just highlighting your engineers within the department. We're doing kind of a, we're doing interviews where we're asking them about their background and, you know, what engineering means to them, but then we're also having fun. We're doing like rapid fire questions. So, you know, you can do both. You can get a little serious, a little more personal with the engineers, or you can have fun. But yeah, I would just make sure that with the team that you have, especially, I mean, if it's just you by yourself, if you are the communications team, yeah, don't stress over over trying to put out too much content, and definitely rely on some of the materials that are provided by DiscoverE.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was all really great. Thank you, Denise. You pretty much covered it. I think that I'm good on this part. No, so one of the things that I did want to mention is that I am more or less a one-man team, right? There are other there are other marketing and communications personnel across university, particularly the university team, and then there's other folks that kind of just wear that hat. I am someone who wears multiple hats in the unit that I'm in. And thankfully I am blessed enough to where I have two incredible work studies, student workers basically. I am training them to do different things, but things that are very important to my unit, what I need support with. So for example, Denise, you mentioned that you have a social content creator who is out there interviewing right now. With my two student workers, I am training them to be able to do things like that. One of them I'm trained to do that. The other one I'm trained to do something else, but both of their jobs, what they're going to be doing, are so important so that way I can be taking on more than I'm really able to handle myself at a given time, right? I can be in multiple rooms at the same time, basically. So that's number one. But the other part of that was going to be I'm so sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I got distracted with the beeping sound over there. I completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay, because while you're thinking about it, Reina, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to ask a question that I didn't prep you guys for, and feel free to pass if you don't want to answer. Denise, you had mentioned earlier you tag other organizations. And it got me thinking, when I first started in the role, I was so nervous to tag people because I was like, oh, I don't want to put them on the spot. I don't necessarily know who runs their comms team. And I don't like, it felt kind of rude. But now I feel much more comfortable. Like, I'm trying to build community here. I'm not like, nothing that I'm doing is like a hate post or, you know, like a gotcha. And so I feel more comfortable with it. But I'm curious, like, what would be your recommendation for reaching out to people or trying to build community online?
That's great. I'm glad you said that, because I too, when I first started in this role, was almost a little embarrassed. Like, I don't want to tag them. They're going to think, you know, what are they going to think about? Or yeah, I had all those, you know, thoughts going through my head too. But even if you don't want to just tag them without letting them know, I mean, reaching out to them is the first thing you can do. Like, hey, you know, we're trying to build more interest in, you know, this certain event, or with, you know, engineers week, similar, you know, we do that here too. Is there are other organizations, for example, like the Texas Department of Transportation. They also do the same thing. They are just tagging everyone, and because when it comes to tagging, I mean, it's not that serious, right? I mean, unless it's, of course, like you said, it's a negative post. But I think when it's something positive, people want to be included in that. So I would just say tag away and tag away. But if you feel like you have to reach out, then reach out and let them know you know, what the goal is, what you're hoping to achieve by tagging, and maybe that'll get, you know, they tag someone else. And so I just think it's easier to tag people than to have to send out an email and ask for permission. Can I tag you? You know, they can always not respond. That's fine. But I don't think there's, you know, you don't lose a whole lot from tagging other organizations with similar interest. And once they get to see what you're posting and the goal that you're trying to achieve and what kind of post it is, I mean, before you know it, they'll be sharing. So similarly with, like I mentioned, the Texas Department of Transportation, the way we have collaborated in the past is they will schedule tours of our water and wastewater facilities. And so they come over, you know, it doesn't happen often. There is coordination with projects that we're doing, but they come over to our plants, we tag them, and now we have a post that they can reshare and collaborate with. And there you go, you have the cross tagging, and then you have all sorts of people commenting on that, like, hey, thanks for your work, thanks for what you're doing. So yeah, I I was very shy about tagging, but now we're not. We are not shy at all.
If I can add to that, Denise, I think that you said it perfectly again. Don't be shy about it. I mean, it's just like going up and talking to somebody. Just do it, especially if it's positive, if it's something that people are another organization that's very similar to what your organization is. Um, it's not just a business that you're reaching out to. There is a person behind that screen that you're
Yeah.
actually tagging. And I feel like that's something that we should keep in mind and remember. Also, don't be afraid. For example, with me, I'm with the university. There's 4 other colleges. There's College of Engineering and then 4 other ones. I was the first person that initiated tagging those other colleges, promoting community, collaborating, that even though we might have different disciplines that we promote or strive for, to attract people to, we are still one community trying to achieve bettering the community, bettering the youth of our community, et cetera. So I do feel like just taking your shot, tagging, especially if it's coming from a good place and there's positivity involved with that, right? I feel like people do appreciate that. If there are companies or organizations that you're a little bit unsure of, such as tagging NASA, try to reach out to somebody. There's an outreach person that works at that place. There's a marketing person. There's a team. Email. It's
There's
okay. Look them up.
whole teams,
Exactly.
big
Just
teams at
send an
NASA.
email. Exactly right. Just send that email. And now not only are you going to hear back about social media, you might also get an opportunity to collaborate in other ways as well. Just taking that first step of interacting and engaging with people. So, and sometimes just you're doing it, Denise. So like Denise mentioned, just tag that company or that organization, see what happens. I'm the social media manager for my organization's platforms, and I always look at who tags. Like it's just like a thing. Like I almost enjoy looking at it. That is, sometimes I'll have to remove the tag depending on the bots, but I really do enjoy it. So I did want to share that. And kind of to go back to what I had forgotten earlier, it was regarding the timeline. Regarding planning for E-Week. I think that ideally when it comes to planning for an event, I would say 6 months in advance would be ideal. I wear many hats. I wasn't even able to do that, and that's what I want to do this year. I started around mid-December, which was very scary. Early December, mid-December, and I'm actually still handling that right now as we speak. Getting emails about that. If you can, I would say 4 months in advance, and then have phases. Phase 1, knowing what you want to do on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then obviously executing. I think that would be ideal, 6 months. The reality is that's not always able to happen. Let's say that you only have 3 weeks of plan. Well, there are some very simple things to do. A table with food is always number one. That's like the highest priority. Table, food, and refreshments. Number 2 is smaller projects that people can get their hands on to do. Quick example, super quick example. I was in a leadership training 2 weeks ago, and I was with department chairs and deans. And we built a tower with index cards, which sounds super elementary and kindergarten, but we had a blast. I mean, we had so much fun. We made it a competition. Little things like that could be a fun way to just engage and get people involved and have a good time. Make it a competition if you can. Put on a timer. Doing those little things I think do help. Just kind of get that excitement of I did a hands-on engineering activity and I got a cold drink out of it. So I think that's always nice.
That's a great idea,
Uh,
actually. And we also do like a meet and greet of our engineers during. So yeah, as long as, have some snacks, if that's that's a very last minute event that you can pull together. If spotlight somebody in the engineering department, we do a Q&A. People from all different departments will come down to the third floor break room to learn more about so and so, and then you walk away with a drink and some snacks and a little bit of you have different departments that start to talk and get to know each other that usually probably don't talk every day. So that's a great idea, and I agree with that.
and a question came in our chat just around if you're a smaller organization and maybe you're an adjacent organization, but you want to collaborate into something like Engineers Week, how do you do that? My just I know DiscoverE it feels very big. There's only 9 of us, and there was only 6 of us when I started. And so sometimes I think also that imposter syndrome, right? We feel maybe less important than actually other people view us. So try to at least be aware if that's what's going on for you. The other thing I would say is sometimes I will comment on other people's content first and just like try to show that I'm interested in them. That might be something that might be useful. Send a DM or just go ahead and tag. As our guests have said, don't be shy. Get in there and do it. The other thing that I would recommend if you're just now thinking, okay, I want to do something for Engineers Week, we have 5 questions that are based on Messages Matter that you could ask anybody who is in any kind of engineering or adjacent related field, and just record. You could do a video and put it onto Reel. You could just write it down and use it as copy for an Insta or Facebook post. I will make sure that you get those 5 questions. We have examples of them on our YouTube with engineers that are answering them. But that would be a really good way because it's 5 business days during Engineers Week. You could post 1 answer a day, or do 1 biography as Denise does there at El Paso Water, and just highlight somebody new every day that has an answer to something. So there's so many things. We are out of time. I can't believe
I
how
know.
quickly
Let
this
me add
hour
something
has
really quick.
passed.
If you
It
don't have
has.
If you have people that don't want to, be in front of the camera, don't worry about highlighting an engineer. Highlight a project. Highlight something. Highlight the project itself. There's always something happening. There was one question. Someone searching for engineers for classroom presentations. Reach out to any local engineering societies, organizations. Every city probably has one. We have the Texas Society of Professional Engineers, which we do a lot of collaboration with. So they want to get their messaging out as well. So reach out to them. That would be a great way to start if you need a guest speaker.
Yeah, and now is the time because it'll take a little bit of time to find somebody and to confirm and get all of that. NISB, SHIPS, there are so many. I can't tell you how many. Google it because there's a whole bunch. We have a whole bunch also listed on our website. We are out of time. Friends,
5 seconds. 5 seconds before we go. I do
go,
want to share this
Reina,
very
go,
last thing.
absolutely.
Do not be afraid to experiment. It is okay. Try different things. Give it a shot. Even if it's something that we didn't mention, just don't be afraid to experiment. You never know if what you're going to do next is going to be a home run. It is okay. Try different things. Thank you. That was it.
Okay, I'll take
You're
2
so very
seconds.
welcome.
Sarah, I'm going to cut you off.
Go.
I just want, I do have to give a lot of credit to the team that helps us put this together. Our communications team, writing the stories, the internal, the external, the social media, our conservation team over at Tech H2O. You see our logos here. We have websites for both Tech H2O and epwater.org. The conservation team just knocks it out of the park every year, getting more than 500 kids and not only kids, but their families to engage in engineering, and our local engineering community who every year wants to be part of this. So it's been great. And I have to give them all the credit because they do such good work.
Thank you both so much. To everybody who is still with us, we do have all of these downloadable resources, and actually something that's not listed here is we now have a Portuguese version, which literally just went through today. So it's never too late to start planning. Thank you to Claudia Matos and Flicker of Light for helping us with the Portuguese translation. We also have merch if you are looking for stuff to buy, stuff to hand out at your event. We're giving a 10% off automatic coupon until Monday. We have these amazing stickers and t-shirts and tumblers and all kinds of other stuff. If you need to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us, info@discovere.org. And I know that my team in the background here is Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for organizing. She is our eWeek program manager. Thank you to her so much for all of this. But she also put our LinkedIns in the chat. So you please feel free to connect with Reina and Denise and myself. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks, everybody. This was amazing and really exceeded my expectations. So you've made my whole week. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for
Happy
having us.
Engineers Week.
Thank you. Happy Engineers Week.